Hello, and welcome to episode 10 of the Lost Decades podcast. I'm Austin,
I'm Andrew.
and this is episode 10, as I said. And to celebrate episode 10, we are really going to focus on good old Hammurabi.
And
And
his
we are covering
conquests.
his conquest. Last week was the law side, the early side, because he started pretty young, and now we're
He did.
getting the Warlord because we are covering the years 1770 BC to 1750 BC. We only doing 20 years because there's so much to cover in this
Yeah,
area.
it's surprising. All like when we ended with Hammurabi last time, even though he ruled for like 48 years, the first like 30 of that was literally
He
just
doesn't
him
do
like
much.
being a ruler of Babylon, no wars. So like yeah,
Yeah.
this stuff doesn't start till he was like I mean, we don't know how old he was when that happened, but let's put him in his like 40s or 50s is when all
Yeah,
this.
he seems maybe like late 30s, 40s or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but not to get too ahead of ourselves, because we are going to start in Egypt, just kind of quickly go over the happenings. As we said last week, they are in their 13th dynasty, which really just means it's the second intermediate period. So this dynasty isn't covering the whole of what we think of as Egypt. It's just like a part of it. Um, and so it's just a lot. As we said last week, it's just a ton of kings, ton of pharaohs taking over, losing control. We
And
don't
not
really
controlling
have
all
any
of Egypt.
details,
That's the key. Is
and not
that's
controlling
what
all of
makes an
Egypt. Yeah.
intermittent period is Upper and Lower Egypt are ruled by different dynasties and stuff. So yeah,
Yeah. Did you have anything specific you did want to talk about, or?
not really because I did a ton of research on like the 13th and 14th dynasty, and it was just kind of what I covered last time. We don't really know much about them. We actually have a huge list of rulers who ruled for like such short periods of time that we thought it might have been some sort of council of nobility that were rotating or something. And then I was looking into um, Dynasty 14 and 15 are also in this time period, but honestly not for like 80 years. So yeah, I hadn't really covered that too much.
The only thing I will say, because I just read through a ton of just specific pharaohs that I'm not even going to say here because it's really nothing too noteworthy, but apparently in 1751, so near the end of this period, it was a high point of the ruler was Neferhotep the first, and he was born to a non-royal family. So apparently that was common during this time, which makes sense because there's so much happening that a lot more like commoners are becoming pharaohs instead of just royalty. And he rules for 11 years, which for this time is pretty long. And essentially that's the peak. Is guy that rules for 11 years is the peak of political stability, cultural output, and internal peace for the 13th dynasty.
And he ruled all of Egypt.
No, I think he was still just the 13th dynasty area. Was that in the north or more
That
the
was
south? I can't
Upper Egypt,
remember.
which throws me off because it's
The
the
southern.
southern part.
I
But
know.
but also I'm pretty sure that was the more secure region. Like it had more resources where the lower part had more food, if you will, and stuff. But if we're talking about gold and tin and copper,
Mm-hmm.
that's more of Upper Egypt.
Kind of makes sense because Lower Egypt, I would imagine, would be a lot kind of like swampier, and the Delta would kind of like have tides that would kind of get it marshy and more
Mm.
unpredictable. And then like yeah, the Upper Egypt. I guess what helps me remember it is like physically thinking about it's upper because it's higher up, so it's like the land is slowly getting higher and higher, and then it kind of becomes like the plateau. I think is like in Ethiopia, so
Yeah.
that's where the mountains get really high and. Um, Anyway, yeah, you can really it seems like Egypt really is kind of like two pieces. Like a lot of times it'll split in half like this, and it's almost like NorCal and SoCal and how
I
like
mean, it makes
they're
sense too because
connected.
their crown is just the Upper Egypt crown and the Lower Egypt crown
Hmm.
combined because it was such
True.
a significant thing of like basically just how people saw like at least the people in Egypt saw as two countries and that it was only ever considered Egypt when someone ruled both of them. So
True.
it really was holding on to just two thrones.
Yeah. I'm just getting distracted by this map, but
It's a good map.
yeah. So it's kind of convenient that not much is going on in Egypt because there is a lot going on in the land between the two rivers. And
Ooh.
before we get into the specifics, I did have some new maps here I wanted to kind of talk about. And for people that are listening, I'll describe what I'm seeing and we'll make it brief. But so this is the map we've been looking at that's from 2000 BC. And then I
It's a
found
little outdated, yeah.
it's outdated. Yeah, so I found one for 1800 by the same.
There we go. I was gonna say because yeah, that's
But
before we're getting ahead of ourselves, but that's before Hammurabi conquers the north. But still, that's
yeah, this
perfect.
is when when we left him last episode, kind of in the middle of his reign. But I thought it was kind of cool to see like it jump from this to this. Like in 2000, they have a lot less territory. Like even the biggest empires only have a couple city states, or just literally like one city. Like Ebla in 2000 BC is literally just the city of Ebla and like the surrounding, countryside. The same with like Mari and almost any of the kingdoms. It's like, okay, yep, Asser, that's just Asser and a couple other places.
Well, look, you're even at the 11th dynasty, whereas now we're at the 12th dynasty. Look at that
Sure,
for
and
Egypt.
Egypt, Egypt's doing its thing. But yeah, you see here in the 1800, they have a lot more land, and the players have changed. We've got Babylon here. Mari has grown a lot. Asser has grown a lot. The Hurrians, no one cares about anymore. Yamhad has grown kind of out of nowhere. They're
The
in the
Aster does
far.
throw me off a little bit
Why?
because most of what I've read is about Eshunana being in that region, and Asher kind of controlled Mari at this reason. With the Shamshi-Adad.
Right.
We can get into that. And Yamhad, it was one that came out of nowhere, but the more I read, he was a big influence and probably the father-in-law of
Of the Mari
Zimri
guy.
Lim, or
Yeah.
Zimri Lim, who
Zimri
controlled
Lim.
Mari.
I know it is weird that I feel like Yamhad and Quatna, which is below them, kind of like on the eastern edge of the Mediterranean Sea. It's like they seem really powerful, but it's kind of hard to find information on them, or not hard to
Yes.
find, but it's
Well, same
like
with the Minoans.
talks about them.
Every time I look at these maps, I see it, and so I do research on the Minoans, and it's like, oh, we don't really know much other than they were making
Yeah.
pottery and they had some cities, and I'm like, oh, I would prefer more information, but okay.
I know, and the Minoans are about to collapse. They've only got a few more decades, I think, before the Mycenaeans on the mainland in Greece are gonna.
And to be fair, a lot of this is down to just who wrote things down, and a
Yeah.
lot of these people didn't. The Mesopotamians and the Egyptians did. That's kind of what led to us knowing so much about them.
When I do read about the Minoans like fully collapsing, because that does like whenever that does happen, I'll at least find some pictures because they have some cool. I like their art of like the bulls jumping over the bulls and stuff. But yeah, a lot's changed in 200 years, and I thought it was. I feel like as we go forward with the podcast, maybe we should like check in every century, every time we get to like a new century,
Mm-hmm.
sort of like okay, like what's changed, what's new, and I feel like the biggest thing now is I don't know, mainly just that we have more larger like kingdoms, whereas before it was
Well, and
more like
again, the rise of Babylon, so it's the first time Sumer
yeah,
and Akkad are unified, and then Upper Mesopotamia is unified. So
true.
it's kind of
So
crazy.
like the Akkadians, they didn't control as much as Babylon will.
No, but they were close. Same with the Ur-3 dynasty. It was
But I
pretty
think it's
close.
been a while. I think that's the biggest thing. Is
That's the
that
biggest
it's
thing
been
is
a
that
while.
we've been in a period of independent city states. Yes,
Yeah.
they control more than one city state, but a lot of small powers doing their own thing, and finally, someone's for the first time in 200 years is pulling them all together again.
Yep. So I guess while on the topic, I just wanted to show a couple of these. I just thought this one looked kind of cool. It's like more of an old school kind of map. Just kind
I
of
mean, you
showing.
can see Sumer and Akkad right there. So
You see it, yep. And it's kind of more zoomed out. You see like I don't know, kind of more of Turkey, I guess.
well,
And then
Phoenicia.
this map looks really ugly, but I thought it was actually kind of a cool concept where it's saying the near like this image literally looks like it was made in like 1996 in Microsoft Paint, but it says the Near East during the time of the Babylonian Empire and the invasion of the two Egypts by the Hyksos, 1750 AD. So at the end of this episode, I don't know if it's that exact year, but this is the period when the Hyksos are coming in to Egypt and go and starting at the top, going down a little bit, and just how those two things are kind of happening at the same time: the Hyksos invading and the Babylonian empires. And
Mm-hmm.
the Hittites, we're going to hear more about the Hittites soon, and they're shown on here as well.
Yeah, because I do want to get to them and stuff. Again,
Yeah.
we got to wait till there's a lot more information to talk about. This is the one I knew about.
Yes. So I will
So,
leave us on this map. This is essentially the map of Hammurabi and the land that he takes over. So why don't we start at the beginning? So just to set the scene, it's around 1770 to 1766. It's still pretty calm. He's fortifying his borders, building irrigation canals. There's kind of some peace going on. And I'd say the main players, let's lay it out. So around this time, we've got, and I don't know
we
which
got.
map I
Are you
should
talking
use,
about the names, or I guess
but
just the countries?
just kind
Because
of the areas. Yeah. So it's
we
like
got Elam,
Elam in
Eshnunna,
the east,
Eshnunna, who's not on this map, but that's essentially where Ashur is. Mari,
over
Babylon,
on the
and
west.
Larsa. Those are the big
And
five.
Larsa, who we used to talk about Larsa all the time, and now they're just a bit player. It's kind of
And
crazy.
not only that, it's funny that we haven't mentioned Isin in like two episodes because they're gone.
Mhm.
The Isin was such a
Yeah,
big player, and they don't exist.
yeah. Reading about Hammurabi, like seeing his whole life story and battles and everything, it like Larsa is one of the least significant like players in this. It's kind of like, oh yeah, and then they're kind of involved in certain things, but
I mean, to
it's a
be
cool
fair,
story. I'm
Larsa, we'll
excited to
get
talk
into
about
it.
it.
Larsa did that to themselves, so
So the first thing that happens is basically that um, let's
Eshnunna
see.
starts expanding.
Eshnunna is expanding in kind of the northeast, and Hammurabi forms an alliance with Mari, with the guy
And
Zimri Lim is his
and
name.
Elam.
Right? They all ally against Eshnunna, and the ruler there is Ibel Pael.
Yeah.
And
And they go and
so
they take him out.
they take him out.
I mean, what I mean is I was surprised to read that it happened like that fast. Like they were just like, all right, we're going to join up. We're going to take this guy out. And he's gone. Like,
Yeah, it
like,
seems like I guess
okay.
the battles at this time they're either you're gonna win or you're gonna lose. It's not gonna be like a year-long siege or something because they just don't have the
They
supplies
don't have the
for it.
capacity for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but
So yeah, it was just, and that they talked about Eshnunna was kind of meddling in the affairs of Mari and Elam, which they didn't like. So they kind of teamed up together to deal with it. Again,
mhm.
Hammurabi was part of that as well, but the big thing was Hammurabi was more of a minor player in this specific
Yeah,
action.
he really doesn't do much, but he does get lucky. I would say kind of the overall thing for Hammurabi, it reminded me a lot of playing like a board game or a multiplayer card game or something where you're kind of just playing, you're not doing bad, you're not doing amazing, you're just like right down the middle, and there's like someone's doing really well and everyone's trying to take him out, or someone's doing like really badly, so people ignore whatever.
Yeah, Magic the
And
Gathering
like then he
Commander.
just kind of outlasts everyone. And like he is really good by the end, but I feel like at the beginning he gets some lucky breaks. It's like so like basically Eshnuna takes over Mari, right?
No, no, no. So Eshnuna tries to attack Mari, but they team up with Elam and everyone, and they attack Eshnunna and essentially get rid of them. But then the problem is they essentially create their own enemy because then Elam's like, "Hey, so I know we like teamed up to attack Eshnunna, and we were gonna leave, but now like I'm just gonna keep it, and now that's just gonna be part of Elam." And one of the things I like read and heard about was interesting was that Elam at this time really saw themselves as like the major player in the region, like because I guess a lot of
Mhm.
Mesopotamia, since it was mostly small city states, and Elam was bigger and more stable, would call on them to help. And so Elam, the weird part I thought was funny was Elam sort of like instead of asking like, "Hey Hammurabi, can you like leave this area? We want to occupy it," or like, "Hey Mari, can you leave? We want to like take control." They would be like, "We demand that you leave. You
Yeah.
will leave."
Well,
Which
so
is
one thing I also thought was kind of cool was that I watched something that we both watched the same video, but it described how in Elam their system of government had so there were basically two rulers. One was in Susa and one was in Anshan, and the one in Anshan was the Sukulma, and he was the main ruler. He controlled the whole
oh,
area, so Susa and Anshan. But the ruler of Susa was called the Sukul, and he was still kind of like considered a king, but he was still below the Sukul.
one I thought was interesting was that was set up by the Ur-3 dynasty. I still think that's so
Yeah,
funny.
I thought that was really cool too, that it was when they had taken over that. It was like, oh yeah, we control this area, but we have like a local governor. And then when Elam took back control, they still kept that old system. Yeah, that
Again, a
was.
lot of people learn from the past. We've learned that a lot of these systems are in place by the Ur-3 dynasty. That people are like, you know, this works. They're like, we like this. So,
Yeah. So, so basically, then the
well, then Elam, it went to their head. What I thought was funny was
yeah,
how Elam tried to trick Babylon and Larsa. Basically, like a classic like thing that almost seems like it'd be working if these two people don't talk to each other. But essentially going to like Larsa and being like, "Hey, we need you to support us so that we can attack Babylon," and then going to Babylon and saying, "Hey, we need you to support us so that we can attack Larsa." And then just hoping, and then it didn't work,
that they
that
don't find
Larsa
out.
and Babylon don't share each other's homework and say, "Hey, do you know about this? Like, have you heard about this?" And they're like, "Yeah, what's that about?" And then they team up instead, and they're like,
Yeah.
"What if we just attacked Elam?"
I feel like my guess of like the dynamics is like Elam clearly they seem like assholes, like you were saying before.
Yeah,
They're bossing everyone else around, and everyone else is like, you literally don't control us. Like, I
yeah,
mean, it's kind of like what Trump likes to do, honestly. Not to get political,
yeah,
but it's like someone who's like telling like the prime minister of Greenland like what to do, and it's like you're
yeah.
literally like you control another country. Like you can invade me if you want, but for now you're like you don't. And then he sort of, I think he probably assumed that Hammurabi and the Larsa guy were like really didn't like each other because they'd always
They
had
were
like
rivals,
they were
but
rivals, and I think they thought they were both really scared of Elam. It's like, well, obviously they're not going to rise up against me. They're not that stupid.
yeah,
That's my guess.
no, no, and then it's funny because that's what ends up happening. And to be fair, like, it's not that Elam was right, but like they had a reason to believe that way because even with Larsa and Babylon
Right.
joining forces,
They also had to
Elon
draw.
was
They had to get
way
Mari on
stronger
their
than them.
side, and then I think Mari pulled in his father-in-law and Yamhad. So it
Yeah,
literally, maybe even Quatna threw in there. I don't know what Quatna was doing, but it's like essentially it was like with Napoleon, the battle of like the five armies or whatever it's called, where I know that's Lord of the Rings, but
but I mean it's Waterloo, but it's the coalition of yeah.
the coalition of whatever, how many countries, some number.
I don't remember how many, but it was most of them. But I get what you mean. It was
It's like a
like
similar. It's like the entire, or it's like the White Stripes song. Seven Nation Army couldn't hold me back.
yeah, and so the Elamites start attacking Mari, but then
Right.
Hammurabi ends up being like, all right, let's all team up. He gets everyone together in the Grand Alliance. I put that in quotes because I kept finding stuff. They kept calling it the Grand Alliance, and I was like, it
Well,
must be
also,
written somewhere.
I do want to say, I think it's one of those things that, in retrospect, we're like really picturing, like, wow, and Hammurabi's doing this. He's getting everyone together. He's like rallying the troops, but like, it does seem like a little bit more like they all kind of mutually were like, yeah, we got to do this. And then because Hammurabi gets so powerful, we sort of are like, oh yeah, but he's the main character, Like,
No,
I
no,
think
true.
people
And that was
kind
the
of
thing.
get.
It's because he was the head of this army. That was the point. Is that even
Oh,
though
okay,
everyone joined together, he was the head of
who's
it,
the
who was
head?
dictating what was happening. And
Okay,
obviously, Mari's like, we'll get in on this. And the big thing, too, that's so funny is Elam had an alliance with Babylon and Mari to take down Eshnunna, and then essentially threw that alliance in the garbage. And then everyone else just teamed up against them. and that's when they took the city of Upi. I think that's what Ubi. Um,
Well, you're
and then
saying the Elamites
the
take
Elamites took
you,
that
right?
city. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, because we're
UPI, UPI.
Upi. Yeah, there we go. And
Actually,
then,
real,
but what was
yeah,
weird was they did that, and then they stopped there. They're like, "Oh, we're done." Like, not that we're done with the war, but like we're gonna take a break. They go back to
yeah. A
Elam,
year later,
and
yeah,
then a
they
year
come
later
back.
they re-invade, and then they try to go after.
Sipar. I
Yeah,
know that was one of the cities. Yeah, which you
but
can actually see on this map.
yeah,
Um, yeah. So Elam is actually doing pretty good for having, everyone else against them. They do kind of because they do like a surprise attack. Like they're immediately kind of just like can
yeah.
tell things are
They're very
shifting.
caught off guard, even though like all these tensions are here. They were caught off guard, and then a key part of this too is that Hammurabi keeps asking for help from Larsa, and Larsa's like, "Nah." Like,
Larsa's crickets. Yeah, nothing from
yeah,
Larsa.
they're like, "No, no, we're good. We're
There
we're
were
just gonna
some
see how this goes
theories.
out."
Yeah, I was curious what you think went on there because there was something about like, well, he just kind of, it's almost like just staying out of global like politics. Like, I just don't want to get involved in this war. Or it's like I think the head of the king of Larsa had like some Elamite lineage. Like,
Yeah, I think the thing that makes the most sense, though, of all the things people speculated, was probably that they were nervous about joining the war because they shared such a big border with Elam, and so they were sort of like,
they're gonna get
join,
the
Elam's just going to
attack.
invade us, and we have no
Yeah.
guarantees that you guys will come in and defend us.
No, because based on how this all goes, it's crazy how the momentum is about to shift. Where it's like first everything was balanced, and then it was kind of like the Eshanuna like starts getting a little feisty, so they sort of fight them down. But then that gives Elam like they're like, oh, now I'm the best, and then I don't know. It's just so interesting how things are can shift so quickly from like you're just some random like
Well, again, because I put all the dates for this, it's like things are shifting every year. It's like, you know, it's like 1767, like Elam Mari attack Eshnunna. Then it's like
Mhm.
1666, Elam's invading Mari, and then like 1665, Mari and Babylon are attacking Elam. I'm like, oh my god, like it is changing a lot.
It's like that one quote that I'm gonna butcher, but it's like there are months where years happen or something. Like there's
Oh, it's
sometimes where
decades, I
not.
think, right? There's decades where nothing happens, and then there's days where decades happen. Something like
Yeah,
that.
or yeah, we're kind of in one right now where like it feels like when we were growing up, there wasn't that much news constantly happening, and now we're sort of in like it feels like almost every day there's like
Yeah.
a major event happening. That's kind of what's going on in Babylon. Is it's like it's been quiet, and then it's like, oh wow, yeah, every year something's shifting. And before we got too far away from it, I did think this was kind of like a fun thing to think about was that whole thing where the two countries both got told the same thing by the Elamites, where they told Babylon and they told Larsa, right? That they
Yeah.
both wanted them to fight each other. Um, the only reason we know that is it was some archive in Mari that had like someone in Mari wrote down like, yeah, he did that. He gave them both. He told them both to attack each other and pretended like he was on each of their sides. So I don't know. It makes me think if we hadn't found like that random archive in Mari, like I don't know what that is nowadays, but the most random, tablet that you found in some random city can be like the one key that's like, oh yeah, like we wouldn't have had that cool fact that they both got played.
Yeah. And I think it's so funny, like in an ironic sense, obviously, that he is like setting up his own failure.
Say more about that. What do you mean?
Like that Elam thinking they're so powerful is like, I'm gonna pit these guys against you each other and then just
Mhm.
like
It
totally
makes them team
dominate.
up.
And then it's like by doing that, he's essentially being like writing his own obituary, like by doing
Yeah,
this.
he doesn't, I guess, realize how much he's driving everyone else together, but by bonding over hating him, hating their like country, I guess. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I almost think like I'm just totally making this up, but I feel like this whole concept they have of I forget the title already, but I'm the guy in Anshan and I control like both cities. I'm like the overlord of the overlord. It's sort of like the concept of an emperor, but it's like I feel like they just kind of have that attitude in Elam of like I'm the king of all the other kings. You're just a king, I'm the Sukulma. I
Yeah.
don't know. They just feel like they have that attitude of like, oh yeah, like I'm better than you.
And
Um,
again, I think it's not that it's deserved too, but part of that comes from all the tin was coming from that region, and we're in the Bronze Age, so
ooh,
like they
oh
really
right, they have a
feel
lot of
like
money.
we like control this shit. Like we are on this. So
A good point. Yeah, and I feel like they had been a powerful force for a long time, but they had kind of just been doing their own thing. And they probably liked the trading, they don't want to fight constantly, but it's like they got so powerful, they're like, oh, we can literally just take over this whole Mesopotamia thing.
hmm And so that's
So
what's
yeah.
funny. That another thing I thought was funny is like when these wars are going on, they talked about that Hammurabi was like, "Well, we got to conscript everyone because we're desperate." So they conscripted the farmers and the merchants, which that are
Oh yeah.
usually not conscripted because they're like too important. Which kind of makes sense. They're too
Yeah.
important to the economy that we can't just get them. But they're like, you know what? We're desperate. Like
For
we're
this, we need
everybody.
it.
We might even free some
Uh,
slaves and just like let them fight.
right. So then this is the weird part. This is the shift is so Elam had already attacked and basically taken over Upi, and then they're attacking Sipar, but then a lot of his troops, who are basically the former Eshnunans, because that's, he had conquered it
Yeah.
somewhat recently, but so he's controlling their army, but they're obviously not going to be super loyal because they were just his enemy, and a lot of them start defecting. But then I think it's kind of a cycle where he starts to worry, like, oh my God, my troops are defecting, like we're gonna lose. So then he just like gives up and runs away,
Which causes more defection and more.
which
Yeah.
just makes everyone be like, all right, screw it, like he's not in charge anymore. And then, yeah, so he loses all the area he had just conquered in Eshnuna, and then basically right after that, does that mean that Hammurabi just now has that? Is what happens? He's just like, all right, cool,
Well,
now
he
I
he
control Eshnuna.
repelled them like
He
from that
repels them.
city. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because after that is when he starts going because then he moves into Eshnunna and he
Mm.
sets fire to their crops and starts stealing their cattle, which obviously is bad, but it's funny too at this time it's such a big deal because like that's their life like it's the lifeblood of anyone, but I mean, we got to think we're so early on. We're like the crops, the water,
Mhm.
the
That's
cows,
all
like
they've got.
are so important.
Well,
It's not
why
just
is
like,
he
oh, we
doing
came in
that
and took their
though?
castle and all their gold. It's like, yeah, no, that wasn't really a big deal.
But you're saying Hammurabi does that to Eshnuna?
Yeah. I mean, and again, it's Eshnuna controlled by Elam, which eventually kind of goes independent, but at this time it kind of
Mm,
makes sense. I mean, because that's the region
right,
that is still
right.
fighting him. So it's causing people to defect, but essentially that's what's going on.
And then, so immediately after that, he sets his sights on Larsa because, as we said, Rimsin in Larsa had not helped him in the war. So then he attacks the city of Larsa. He besieges it, and apparently he dams up the city's water supply.
Yeah,
Uh,
which is apparently I found out though, because I was like, oh, that's pretty smart, but I didn't realize this is a pretty common tactic at the time, not just a Hammurabi thing.
okay. Yeah, I don't want to come across as like, wow, Hammurabi invented all this crazy stuff because I still he did some cool stuff, but he really wasn't that special, honestly. I mean, he does.
And as we'll get into, like, not that he's not inventive, but it's funny that his idea is basically like, well, what if we team up and then I backstab my allies? I'm like, oh, what a clever man
Right.
you are.
He's
Like,
not like he's not like a King Arthur type guy where yeah, he's this super like moral guy. Yeah, he loves like betraying his former allies. And I mean, they're all doing that though because then
which I guess we could get into then, because I mean, essentially,
yeah.
well, not that he betrayed an ally in this sense, but so Elam retreats. Um, Eshnunna kind of goes independent. They win this war and stuff.
he
But
takes over
Hammurabi now
Larsa.
is pissed
Yeah,
about Rimsin of Larsa not helping. He's very like, how could
right.
you do this? Like, why would you not help us? And so then he's basically just like, well, you know what? We'll just invade you. Which again, I had to keep double checking. And yeah, this isn't his own army. Like he still has like Rimsim's army and some of the other guys' armies, and they're just sort of like, yeah, we'll support you. Like let's just whatever. We'll go after Larsa too now.
Well, it kind of
And
makes sense because it's like, okay, we were all teaming up against this enemy and you didn't. So it's like, it kind of seems like you're our enemy now, I guess.
yeah,
And yeah,
um,
apparently Larsa, the city only lasts for about 6 months, and then
they run out of food.
they surrender. Yeah, they run out of food, and he doesn't raise it apparently.
Yeah, but he did tear the walls down, which is a big deal in that like the city can't
Yeah,
defend itself. So,
true. But
um,
before we moved on from Rimson, I did want to give him props because he apparently ruled for 59 years.
one of the longest
Quite
rulers. I
long.
know we haven't been keeping track that well,
Yeah.
but literally one of the longest, which is crazy.
Yeah,
Larsa had a lot of those though. Didn't Gungunum rule for like 49 years or something, which is crazy.
that's
Still
definitely
less,
long.
but still
Yeah.
like a long time. So,
Did a lot. And then apparently after he takes over Larsa is when he really is like, okay, I'm officially the ruler of Sumer and Akkad now, is Hammurabi.
yeah, and he does the thing though where he gets rid of all their debts. Not everyone in Larsa. Well, sorry, yes, everyone in Larsa, but not in the extended empire of Larsa, if you will, to call it
Hmm.
that. He only gets rid of the debts of the citizens of the city of Larsa, but everyone else is still, yeah. He's just trying to get the capital on his side.
That makes sense. And then this is why I think I got confused earlier, is now that he's done this, now he wants Eshnuna. So I feel like this is when he really gets power hungry. It's like you're kind of like, oh, this little underdog Hammurabi guy, and then it's like all of a sudden he's like, nope, I'm taking it all now. I'm like worse than the Elamites.
Yeah,
Eh,
and then literally like Mari's like, you're kind of out of control. Like I want my army back. And then it's funny how Hammurabi's later the meme where he's like, and I took that personally. And
yeah,
he's
I
like,
think well, 'cause- yeah, I think, and then I think Mari sees this as like scary, so then they start allying with Eshnuna,
Eshnana.
and that's when or when Hammurabi really takes it personally, because
Yeah, so then he goes after Eshnana, takes Eshnana, and then is like, Mari, how dare you fight against my right to conquer everyone?
yeah,
Like,
I thought we
I
were
am the
friends. You should let
Senate.
me rule everything.
Yeah, I am Mesopotamia.
So
So,
then he basically, you could say he betrays Mari, Zimri-Lin, and Mari.
I mean,
I
he
also,
betrays Eshnana, he
yeah.
betrays Mari,
I
he
actually
goes
had made
out.
this connection. The ruler of Mari was Zimri-Lin, and the ruler of Eshnuna was Silisin, which does sound
I
kind of
couldn't
similar.
get past that his name was Silly Sin because like he was
Silisin.
such a short ruler, like who just had control of that region, and they just kept thinking of
Silisin.
like, oh, it's old Silly Sin.
Oh,
He
Silisin.
thinks he rules Eshnana, but not really. He's
Not
just
for
a
long.
Babylonian puppet, and his time has come.
Oh yeah, I'm Zimri-Lin. Have you met my brother Silisin?
Silly Sin? He's the inventor of Silly Putty. Um,
Right, right.
yeah.
So I don't know. So I don't know. It's just a lot of hit. Like he kind of goes beast mode. He's like, all right, screw it. Now I'm taking over. It makes it seem so easy. All the history. It's like, okay, then he just takes over Mari from Zimri-Lin, and
But
now,
again, it's kind of like we said, it's easy when you just backstab the people who are helping you and like just steal their
yeah,
armies and stuff and be like, oh, you know how we did all this stuff? Actually, your leader is terrible and we should like conquer him now. And it's like, oh,
you do
okay.
kind of get it to a certain extent because you see someone like the Elamites and it's just like if you're not gonna be brutal and just do whatever it takes, like someone's probably gonna just take you over. So I would honestly probably just let them take me over because it seems like usually they just kind of, as long as you surrender peacefully and everything, they're like, all right, you
But
can like,
again, remember, that was like a newer concept and it's not invented by
yeah,
Babylon. It's funny that they still took that idea from Assyria, who was the first ones to really do it, of like, if you open the gates to us, we'll like, you're good. Like,
right,
and in
right.
fact, that's how he
It's
won
not
some
a
of these
hundred percent
cities. Was he
chance.
said like, I won't tear down your walls, I won't burn your city, I won't steal your gold, I won't enslave anyone. If you just open the gates, let
Hmm.
me in, and swear loyalty to me, then like we're all good. Which makes
Yeah.
sense, but especially in a time period where it used to be that even if you did that, you're like, we surrender, we open the gates. So like, okay, well, we're still gonna kill everyone, burn down your city, and enslave
You
everyone
just made it
else.
easier for us,
You just
yeah.
made it easier for us, so it's like, okay.
I think that's one thing that's kind of interesting about right now in this time is like there are definitely like agreed upon like cultural things that everyone kind of is, to a certain extent, but it does feel like there's less of that feeling of like, okay, this is what's done, like these are the laws of war. It's like if you do this, then this, and throughout history, people are going to break those rules and be like, play dirty, but I feel like they're kind of inventing the rules as they go. It's kind of like, in this circumstance, it makes sense that I'm just going to like let you keep the city, but in this other circumstance, I'm just gonna like either kill everyone or like ship them off to a different city and like burn it to the ground. And it's not really about like this is what's done. It's just sort of like this is what I felt like makes
Which is
sense.
funny to go to that. Like, that's kind of like the thing with Mari is that he said, like, he burned the city to the ground. He took everything of value
It
and lit the city on fire. But then he's like, "But I spared
I
everyone." And
spared the
everyone's like,
people.
"What do you
Yeah,
mean by you spared? Like you spared them from a terrible life by killing them? Like, or you like enslaved all of them and they're
I
still
think
alive, so they should be grateful? Like, I don't know. Like,
yeah. I feel like you don't have like I think you have to be really pissed to like kill an entire city of people. Like you have to really be like they're not gonna listen to me or something because at this time like you want manpower. Like you want to have those farmers out there like cutting the wheat and everything. So it's like that was probably a last resort, I would think, unless you're kind of
I
like
think
letting
they were
your
saying it's
emotions
because,
take
and
control.
again, this is all speculative. They think because he was still very angry about Zimri Lim, like not having his
Betraying, I
back,
mean,
even as he went crazy power hungry and started conquering everything.
yeah.
He was
So
really angry about that, and this was Zimri Lim's like capital. So, and it's funny
mhm.
that they said that they don't even know. I mean, he could have been, but we're not even sure if Zimri Lim was even there. Maybe that's why he was able to take the city so easily.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, like, not just with him, but like I feel like with a lot of these kings, when they lose, we like never find out what happens to the actual guy. It's always like, and then Mari conquered Aser, and this king, but then it's like, and you never hear about the king, and it's like, okay, like you'd think they would want to say like, and we, whipped him in the street, and then we hung him up or whatever. But it's like they don't really care about like killing the king. It seems like they don't mention it a lot. But yeah, it's a mystery what happens. But it does sort of make sense that he's like, I'm mad at you, so I'm gonna burn your city down. But I'll let the people. I would think that it's like okay, you guys just need to spread out and go to different cities. It's like I'm burning your city down, so just
Yeah,
you go here, you go here.
I mean, and it's funny that he goes past Mari and he goes up and takes Oster and Nineveh, and essentially that seems like the extent,
Ah,
but like that is still massive if you like have the thing. Because look at that's even showing
yeah.
just to Mari. He goes north of that. Like,
Yeah, he conquers a crazy area. It's said it's basically it's all of modern Iraq and Syria.
yeah, and what I thought was funny is now there's going to be intermittent periods and stuff like that, but what I read too is this kind of puts an end to the city state period of this region.
Mm,
Like it
hmm.
starts shifting from like Babylonia to Assyria to Persia to the Neo Assyrian Empire to the Neo Babylonian Empire. But like there's
Interesting.
very few time periods now where all these cities are independent or like under different rules. We're now entering the age of like the empires, different empires just ruling all this region. Northern
Mm.
Mesopotamia, Akkad,
Honestly,
Sumer.
that's kind of
Like,
nice because I was getting a little bit tired of like reading like 12 different Wikipedia pages for all the different kings of like gotta look up Isin and Larsa and
yeah,
Eshmuna. It's like it'll be kind of nice when I can just be like, okay, like Hammurabi or whoever is like the Assyrian emperor. It's like I can just
yeah.
focus on that. So that is kind of nice. It'll get a little simpler.
No, I agree, and that's what it seems like it's going to be the case. Like Babylon rules for a while. I mean, a while for our podcast. It's funny how, in the grand scheme of things, they're not around that long compared to how long like
Yeah,
Assyria and Persia are.
definitely. It's
But
pretty short. And also, I don't know if you already said this, but I thought it was kind of cool that Hammurabi ends up conquering what will later become like the Assyrian Empire, like main territory, so that he controls Asser or Asher and Nineveh.
yeah, they called it the Sabartu read. I was trying to confirm that somewhere else, but the few things I listen
I saw that too. Yes, Sabartu.
Sabartu region. Um, and it makes sense that as cool as the things he did, and I'm not trying to take it away from him. It's just funny that he's laying the groundwork for someone else to come in and steal his homework, if you will, and just be like, "Yeah, we're just gonna do the same thing you did to everyone else to you." Like, to be fair, your descendants. Like,
Yeah. Also, I actually just read this. I hadn't seen this before, but maybe he didn't sack Mari immediately, because what I'm seeing here is that after a series of local uprisings against Babylonian occupation, Hammurabi decides he's going to stop playing nice. He orders his troops to systematically dismantle Mari's famous 300-room royal palace and
wow.
level the city walls. 300-room royal palace is
And this
crazy.
isn't 17 like 40 or 50, the exact, or sorry, 17 like 60 or
This is
40,
like
I don't know the exact year.
4,000 years ago.
And you have a 300 room palace.
I
That's
want to see all
crazy.
these rooms.
Yeah. They're like tiny rooms. They're like the size of like a bed. They're like,
Probably a lot of them
we
are,
wanted up the
honestly. It's
room
like
count.
it's probably counting like closets and
But how
whatever.
many
But
baths do you think it was?
I'd have to look up
300
how fast
room,
it even
12
worked at
bath.
the time. Probably a lot. Probably a lot of kind of like kitchens and like I'm assuming. I don't know if they had like harems or something. I would assume they do. They definitely have
Yeah.
like priestesses and stuff.
Well, and
And
it's
I think
funny,
they
going back to like one of the earlier things that's still funny, when Elam invaded, they talked about how they had estimated around 30,000 men. And it still blows my mind that like in antiquity and classical era, they're able to field these huge armies. But when we get to like the medieval ages, at least in Europe, like
Mhm.
because it's so fragmented, like the biggest armies they can field is like, well, we got an army of 3,000 men,
Hmm.
4,000 men. Everyone's like, that's insane. And it's like, bro, we're in like 1700 BC and he's got 30,000 men. Like,
That's crazy. I didn't realize that. I
yeah,
know it is cool, and they don't have to also like. I mean, it's relative, but I feel like it's a little bit easier to like outfit your army when you're just giving them like some leather and like maybe not even leather and like a spear.
maybe
Whereas
even
like
just sharpened
medieval,
sticks. Yeah.
yeah, whereas in medieval, it's like if you just have one of those guys, like you might as well not even have a soldier. It's like it's not really gonna help. Um, but is there anything else? I mean, yeah, he kind of wraps up. It's a little
And
bit
that's kind of the
quieter.
end. In that he pretty much he wraps this all up kind of in 1755. He dies in 1750, and there's not much notable about his death. So I'm assuming it's just more of like a peaceful, like, I mean, maybe a disease or something, but I mean more of just like a he died of old age in
Yeah.
1750, and that was the end of it.
Well, and importantly, I think this is really the reason why we still to this day, like, I think it's even in the, I don't know if it's mentioned in the Bible, but it's definitely an influence on the Bible of like the Code of Hammurabi. We always hear about this. It's like one of the few things you learn in like regular public school, like world history class, I feel like is Hammurabi. And I feel like it's because he is not one of he's kind of one of the first to have this big empire and it's that combined with he already was so into the laws that he spreads them everywhere. So he has the big foundation of the law, then he conquers a bunch of land, so then those laws spread all over. And then I think people like to just have a standard code. It's like, okay, this is what everyone else is using. We're just going to stick to these laws, and it slowly spreads further and further. Because if you don't have as much organization, you're probably just going to go with someone else that has like it all written out.
Well, no, and it makes sense because it's kind of funny that like we said, like Elam and Larsa and Isin, like from the previous ones, we're relying on institutions that were set up by like Ur-3 dynasty. So it's
Yeah,
just funny that they and the Ur-3
it
when we
all
talked about it
ripples
in episode
down.
one, they were known for just having such a strong establishment of bureaucracy and rules and laws and governing, so that it helped things
Mm-hmm.
like that. Because I mean, I know we talked about all the laws and stuff last time, but the one thing I didn't mention is it's just because we wanted to focus on the laws last time and focus on the wars this time. But all those laws and stuff he did were at the end of his life. That would be happening now. So
Right.
yeah,
And it also makes me think about how, like kind of what you're saying, like this area is so used to having all these laws and organization, but there's also you always hear about all these usually like horse riders up in like the Zagros Mountains to the east and all kind of around like up in the northern areas. And like they obviously knew about Babylon or they knew about Mesopotamia. And I feel like if I'm imagining it from their point of view, you're like in this giant mountains or a field and you're riding around on your horse. And like, I mean, this is like a romanticized version, but you're like have
Mhm.
this like life on the plains. And then you look down into the valley and you see cool, you see the Tower of Babylon and you see all this cool stuff, but you also see like all these like slaves like building these things and all this like all these laws and people getting their head like arms cut off for like
And
stealing bread or
wars.
something. I
So
feel
yeah.
like I would be like, I'm good. Like I'm gonna stay up in the mountains and just like, you know, hunt whatever like animals are over
I think
here.
it's because everyone just wants to be that guy on top. You're like, I'm not going to be one of the slaves or one of the workers. I'm definitely going to be that guy with all the gold who
Right.
stands at the top of the pyramid. That's going to
Or
be me.
your ancestors were enslaved or something, so then you just kind of grew up in the area and you like are just sort of a regular citizen after a certain point, but you just kind
Yeah.
of get caught up in it, yeah. But yeah, I don't want to. I want to, occasionally remember that there's other stuff going on, and it's not like the people didn't know, and they were like, the second they like stumbled upon Babylon, they're like, oh my God, we need to live here and like do
Yeah.
this right now. It's like they knew it was happening, or a lot of people did, and they chose to, not. And also, not every part of the world is geographically fit to like have this type of like civilization happen
Well,
anyway.
and stuff travels slowly, so other parts of the world might be like, that's not real. Like,
That
that's not
too.
a thing.
Yeah. That would
So,
be cool. I always think that's an interesting idea of like for most of history it would have been similar to this, but especially this far back is, if you lived in let's say like Greece or like France, let's say you're like a Celt or something, it's like the idea of Babylon would seem so like legendary and you're never gonna see it. You're
yeah.
never gonna go there. So he dies after a 43-year reign of natural causes, and
49 or 8, right?
that's what I saw. I don't know, something. I think
Okay.
maybe it's a little vague. I don't think they knew how old he was when he died, but I don't
Oh,
know why.
true, true. Yeah, we don't know. How old.
Anyway, it was a good long reign, and his son Samsu Aluna ascends the throne, and I'm sure he's gonna do just as good as his dad, right?
Oh, totally. That's
I
usually
like
what happens.
like father
Since
like son. There's definitely not a reason we decided to end the episode at 1750, and
yeah.
it's not going to be a sudden change again.
A shift in everything. What? A dramatic shift.
Never heard of that before. I'm one thing I'm excited for next episode is it mentioned something about the Sealand dynasty or Sealand dynasty, which is like kind of like we don't know much about it, but um, I don't know. It's basically an area that's right on the Persian Gulf, like which is kind of Larsa, but I think even further south. Like I
Hmm.
just picture them as kind of like swamp people, which
Yeah.
is interesting to me. Because also, and I think they start taking over more. Actually, I'm getting mixed up. Does the Persian Gulf go more inland, or does it go further away through time?
It retreats over time.
It retreats over time.
So currently it's more inland than it would be in modern day, due to the region getting more arid, so there's more evaporation and more silt buildup. Because what's funny
Right,
is
more
before the
silt.
Tigris and the Euphrates both emptied separately into the Persian
Yeah.
Gulf, but now they actually meet as one river
Oh,
and then empty into the Persian Gulf.
interesting. Because yeah, I
Yeah.
think I think I just saw somewhere that these Sealand people they like take over a little bit more land like as it starts like silting up in real time. I guess they're
Hmm.
like really right on the coast. Anyway, that'll happen, and maybe we'll talk a little bit more about Egypt next week because we didn't really touch on them this time. But were there any other like I don't know random facts you wanted to share? Or...
I actually didn't have any. No, it was very interesting to read all about. I spent a lot of time reading all about these battles. So, yeah.
All right, I guess I'll say one random fun fact because I had some from last week that I never said. These are kind of about Egypt, though. But since we didn't really talk about Egypt, I guess I'll just say that apparently eating bread was destroying everyone's teeth because um, when they would grind up the grain on the stone mills, it would like leave little grit of like sand in the flour. So then when
Okay.
you eat the bread, it's like slowly wearing your teeth down. So
Interesting.
they wear their teeth down. All right. Well, on that note, this has been episode 10. We have made it to
Yeah.
10 episodes, folks. And yep, we had a week off, but we will definitely be there next week going forward. We have no plans for another week off. And just wanted to thank everyone who's listening. If you don't yet follow us on Instagram, it's a good way to kind of see clips and keep everything in one place. Um, Andrew, do you want to take us out this week?
Ooh. Well, get lost.
Get lost.
Get lost.